This is every single fight to make after UFC Fight Night Singapore Holloway versus the Korean Zombie. I have all of the key fighters from that card on the screen right now. Some winners, some losers, and you may notice there is an empty box next to all of them, and that's where their next opponent's going to go, who I have hidden around the perimeter of the screen. I'll slowly reveal those opponents one by one as the video goes on and place them where they belong on the screen. Let's start straight away with Max Holloway, the winner of the main event. Of course, we're not going to be making a matchup for the Korean Zombie. He is retired from the sport of MMA. What a legend he was and is. But Holloway needs a matchup. And this is the problem that I'm having with the featherweight division. Holloway is going to defeat every single striker they put him up against. I mean, Chikadze had a win on this very same card. And if they're going to go down the rankings, the only other guy that's coming off a win that could make sense as a matchup for Max Holloway would be Chikadze. I don't want to see that. I think Holloway would do terrible things to him. So I want to see Max Holloway versus a grappler. And I've already talked about this in my last Every Fight to Make video after UFC 292. It has to be Aljamain Sterling. I'm not going to go over all the things I said before, but I'm going to keep it brief here. Aljamain Sterling is in the pound-for-pound list. Max Holloway is in the pound-for-pound list. If Aljo stays at bantamweight, what's he going to do? Fight Sandhagen again? That ruins his last fight with Sandhagen because I don't think he can do it better than he did before. If he fights Yan again, he's messing up his legacy there as well. He can't fight Merab because they're best friends. I don't understand what the confusion is here. We've got to get Aljo to move up to 145 pounds. And honestly, if they said, we're going to give you Holloway, and if you win, we'll probably give you a title shot at 145 pounds, I bet you Aljo would take that fight. As long as there's some kind of guarantee for him, I bet you he would look to take that fight. Because at this point at bantamweight, I don't know if he's going to be getting a rematch. I know he's not going to be getting a rematch. In fact, I think they're going to give it to Marlon Vera. And if Marlon Vera wins, or if Marlon Vera gets his title shot, then Sandhagen's got to get a title shot. And then Merab versus Cejudo happens. And if Merab wins that, he's got to get a title shot. Merab could argue for a title shot right now if he wasn't so pathetic. There's too much of a logjam to have Aljo hold this up. Move him up to 145. Have him fight against Holloway. Because that way, we get a grappler against Holloway. Now, the other option is Movsar Evloev. But the problem with Movsar Evloev is he just had a really uneventful fight with Diego Lopez, where it was a great fight and Diego Lopez looked great. But for Movsar Evloev, it's not the dominant performance we need to see from someone to say that they're then going to go on to beat Holloway. I know Aljo's in that same situation, but he's a pound-for-pound top-level guy. Like, this is a top 15 pound-for-pound matchup. This would be an amazing fight night main event. This would be a great addition to a pay-per-view card. Maybe in January, maybe in February. Who knows? I think this is the perfect matchup to make. Both guys are going to take a little bit of time off. I think January is a great comeback date for these guys. Maybe it'll be a fight night main event. Maybe a pay-per-view main card. I don't know, but I think, honestly, if Aljo's on there with Holloway, and you can really entice these guys to take these fights, more than just saying, hey, take this fight. You can say, Aljo, take this fight. If you win, we'll give you a title shot at 145 pounds. And why wouldn't they? It's Max Holloway. Surely Aljo would deserve a title shot if he wins. Not only that, give him a little bit of a juicy amount of pay. I know he's not a champion anymore. Do a little bit of a nice contract for him and say, you know what, Aljo? We're about to renegotiate your contenders contract right here because you're no longer a champion. If you stay at bantamweight, it's going to be this contract. If you go to featherweight and fight Holloway for us in your first fight back, it's going to be a nicer contract. And I think that's worth it. And McGregor might be fighting in January. So if you can entice them with that as well, to say maybe Holloway versus Sterling's going to be on the main card of the McGregor pay-per-view, then you can get Aljo on board to take these fights. You just got to entice them. I want to see Holloway versus a grappler. He's going to outstrike everyone else other than Volk. Simple as that. And even Volk likes to mix in takedowns on Holloway. So we can't have him versus these strikers. We got to do Holloway versus a grappler to make it somewhat interesting, even though I think Holloway would win. We move on to another fighter on the card. Anthony Smith won in the co-main event. Big win for him. He's back on track because I think if he lost, we would have seen another Korean Zombie type situation where he would have 100% retired from the sport. I would not see him sticking around if he did not get that decision win over Ryan Spann. By the way, I've rewatched the third round. Anyone saying that Spann got robbed is absolutely blind. They're absolutely blind. Round 3, Smith clearly won that round. outlanded him, landed the better shots. He was smacking Ryan Spann's chin around in that third round quite a few times. And he was chewing up the calf. Either way, my opponent for Anthony Smith, no-brainer again, Jan Blachowicz. Now, I was going to unveil Azamat Murzakanov here. You know what I mean? Just to really do a bad favor here for Anthony Smith. But Azamat Murzacanov's going to be looking to fight soon. Khalil Roundtree's probably going to be looking to fight soon as well. He just got an easy win over Chris Daukaus. The situation I'm finding ourselves in here is Anthony Smith just took a ton of damage. Jan Blachowicz took a bit of damage in his last fight as well. Went to a really tough fight with Alex Pereira. Took a lot of shots. He's an older fighter anyway. So I think these two are on a much more similar schedule than the rest of the light heavyweight division. Now, normally I would match up Smith at this point with an up-and-comer, but I think they're going to do Rakic versus Krylov. Got a real strong feeling about that one. They're going to do Rakic versus Krylov. And Anthony Smith, Jan Blachowicz is a Fight Night Apex main event, really, isn't it? You know what I'm saying? That could be an Apex main event with a really strong undercard. They could justify that. It could also be a good addition to a pay-per-view card. But Anthony Smith, Jan Blachowicz is the matchup I'd like to see happen next. Mainly because of schedule. Now, I know Jan Blachowicz is saying he wants to move up to heavyweight or move down to middleweight. Stop. You're a light heavyweight. End of discussion. I think this is a great matchup for Jan Blachowicz as well. So I think he'd welcome this matchup because what's Anthony Smith's biggest weakness? Low kicks. What does Blachowicz do to nearly every opponent? Destroy their legs. So I think it's going to be Jan Blachowicz versus Anthony Smith. I think Blachowicz will see that and go, I like that matchup. I reckon I could get a free win here. And at the end of the day, if Jan Blachowicz wins, he's right back looking for his shot against a title elimination bout. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see what happens. But I think Anthony Smith, Jan Blachowicz, schedule-wise, makes sense because I think they're both going to be looking to return around February of next year. We move on to the loser of the co-main event by his own choice because he doesn't have an IQ. Ryan Spann. Dustin Jacob, I think, is the matchup for Ryan Spann. No rest for Ryan Spann. Get back in there. You don't deserve time off. You were gloating after the fight, waiting for your hand to be raised, even though you clearly lost the first and third round, acting like you've got no damage on you. So guess what? No damage on you? You can fight again before the end of the year. Let's do December pay-per-view prelims. Ryan Spann versus Dustin Jacob. I think that's the matchup to make. Dustin Jacob, he's coming off a quick KO win over Kennedy Nzechukwu. He is a ranked light heavyweight contender. Ryan Spann is going to lose some ranking spots. I think he'll move down to number 12. I think he was number 10 in this matchup with Anthony Smith. He's going to move down to about number 12, I reckon. Jacob, he's number 15. Makes all the sense in the world. Make that matchup happen. They're on similar schedules as well. I think that's the fight that should happen because Jacoby just won recently as well. So I think December, maybe even the final card of the year, just on the main card of a fight night, they should be doing Ryan Spann versus Dustin Jacoby. We move on. Erin Blanchfield won in what should have been the co-main event, but I'm glad it wasn't with how the fight went, let's be real. Erin Blanchfield got a win over Tyler Santos. Some people are going to say that I'm wrong for making this matchup, but I'm going to explain why I think I'm right. Macy Barber. I reckon Manon Fiorot's going to TKO Rose Namajunas. And if she does get that big win over a big women's MMA name in Rose Namajunas, I think you've kind of got to capitalize on the momentum. And I think you've got to give it to her over Erin Blanchfield. Because let's not forget, Manon Fiorot, as of right now, is ranked above Erin Blanchfield in the rankings. So if she beats a former champion Rose Namajunas at strawweight, she does deserve that shot. You know what I'm saying? I think she will get a finish. And if she does get that finish, definitely deserves a shot over Erin Blanchfield's performance. Maybe not, though. Maybe Erin Blanchfield deserves a shot, and I know what you're going to say. Tyler Santos arguably beat Shevchenko, and, Blanchfield beat her clearly 2-1. I get it. But Erin Blanchfield is, 24 years of age? This way, no matter what, you get somewhat of a marketable women's MMA fighter to fight for a belt next by doing Blanchfield versus Macy Barber. And 2, I reckon she beats Macy Barber, okay? Macy Barber ain't got the takedown defense of Tyler Santos, or the strength, or the Adam's apple. So I think Erin Blanchfield would beat Macy Barber. You could put it on a big pay-per-view card. December, pay-per-view prelim headliner. Maybe not the headliner. Something along those lines, though. Decent position on a card. Let's not have this lost down at the bottom of a main card and have an uneventful performance and use that as the momentum to give Erin Blanchfield a title shot. I want to see Erin Blanchfield have a great win, so then we can really have some hype behind her title shot and give her the time to actually improve even more because she's such a young fighter. So Erin Blanchfield, Macy Barber, I think that's the matchup to make. Capitalize on the two of them. Make sure you keep one of them around. And I think in the meantime, if Manon Fiorot beats Rose Namajunas, definitely give Manon Fiorot the title shot, and I think she will beat Namajunas. However, if Manon Fiorot loses or doesn't have a great performance, go ahead and give it to Erin Blanchfield. We move on. Giga Chikadze got a win over Alex Caceres. Not too impressive, but he did make a call out on the microphone afterwards to Yair Rodriguez. Love this matchup. I think this is a great matchup. I'm glad that he called him out. Striker's dream of a matchup. Could be an Apex Fight Night main event. I'm chucking around a bunch of Apex Fight Night main events, but he wants to fight in December at the end of the year. And I'm down. Yair Rodriguez. I mean, he fought, Volk at UFC 290. That was in July, 6 months later. This matches up perfectly for him. He did take some damage in the Volk fight, but it's not like he got Holloway catered in that fight. So he's not going to need a year off, 8 months, 7 months. 6 months off is a good enough time for him. I think he'll be looking to get back in there in about a month's time anyway. So I think start your training camp in October. Give yourself some more time to rest, Yair. And Giga Chikadze take a little bit of time off after this win. And I think Giga Chikadze versus Yair Rodriguez should be the matchup to make. I'm not saying if Giga wins, he should get a title shot or anything like that. But this is a good matchup to then lead towards another great matchup in the top 5. Giga Chikadze, Yair Rodriguez. Striking dream matchup. Everyone knows that's going to be a fun fight to watch. We move on. Alex Caceres, again, 0 IQ, never shot a takedown, lost a fight against Giga Chikadze. I reckon he should take on Cub Swanson. Cub Swanson just got sort of kind of gifted a decision win over Hakeem Dawodu. And I think Alex Caceres versus Cub Swanson's the matchup to make. I think it's the matchup to make. Caceres, Swanson, fun matchup. You don't need to be feeding these guys to the wolves too much. The winner of this can be fed to a wolf. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mind that. But right now, let's just make a fun matchup. Swanson just had a tough fight with Dawodu. Caceres just had a tough fight with Chikadze. I'm thinking February fight night card. Feature fight position. Opener of the main card, more likely, I think. Crowded event. Put it on the main card. They'll have a fun scrap. Great style matchup for both of them to have some fun. Caceres, Cub Swanson haven't fought each other before, even though they've both been around in the featherweight division for a long time. I'm sure they've eyed up each other as a matchup before, so I think that's the fight to make. Caceres versus Swanson sounds like a fun one to me. Moving on to Rinya Nakamura. Daniel Santos is the matchup that I want for Rinya Nakamura. Mini Oliveira. You know what I'm talking about, dude. This is a big matchup, I think, and I think it's a great matchup as well. Daniel Santos didn't have the greatest of performances in his last fight against Johnny Munoz Jr., but the same way I like the idea of Cameron Simon versus Christian Rodriguez, I like having two names against each other because you guarantee a winner. We don't want to be having these guys yet in their career taking on some of these tricky veterans outside the rankings that could beat them, and then you're stuck with the 38-year-old veteran at bantamweight. Let's start matching these guys up against each other because it's a hyped fight. Like, when people see this on a card, Rinya Nakamura versus Daniel Santos, Millie Oliveira versus Rinya Nakamura. I'm not going to say Mini anything for him. Rinya Nakamura, Daniel Santos. That's a great matchup on a card. That screams excitement. And you know what I like about Daniel Santos in that matchup with Rinya as well? He's got a great jiu-jitsu game and he's game. He will try very hard. Fernie Garcia, side quest for Rinya Nakamura. Daniel Santos will go for him. On the feet, he'll be looking for a KO. He'll charge into the fire. On the ground, he'll be looking for subs. He'll be trying to make something happen. And if we can see Rinya pull off a finish against a guy like him, that's going to be very impressive. So I think that's the matchup to make. Both guys are on 2-fight win streaks in the UFC bantamweight division. Match them up against each other on a fight night card to open up a fight night card on the main card, right in that bottom position. We move on. Mikhail Alekseychuk got a huge win against Chidi Njokuani. Very, very impressive win from him. I think I've got a no-brainer matchup for him as well. He's going to need a little bit of time off because he did take some damage from Chidi Njokuani. But the matchup I have in mind for Mikhail Alekseychuk is Brad Tavares. Similar schedules. Both guys just fought some tough fights. Of course, Mikhail got wobbled and Tavares didn't, but Tavares was kicking at Weidman's shins. He had a bunch of kicks checked. I'm sure his feet are sore. Maybe he broke a bone here and there. Who knows? Got cracked a couple of times. Isn't an active fighter anyway. You know what I'm saying? Is not an active fighter anyway. So I'm thinking, again, fight night card, main card, Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, Brad Tavares. I know Tavares is kind of ranked level-ish, just outside the rankings, and he beat Weidman, so some people should be saying top 15 next. I think he should have beat Weidman way more impressively than he did. So I think he needs to be punished with Mikhail Oleksiejczuk being his opponent. So I think Oleksiejczuk, Tavares, great matchup. I reckon Oleksiejczuk beats him, but it's another jump up for Oleksiejczuk, so I like the matchup. We move on to another fight on the card that took place, which was Junior Tuffer versus Parker Porter. Junior Tuffer won, and the matchup I have in mind for him is easy to match up. Waldo Cortez Acosta. One on the same card. They're both bottom feeders in the heavyweight division. It's a great scrap. They're going to strike. They're going to throw hands. They're going to go for the KO early. That's the matchup I want to see. Junior Tuffer versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. I'm done. That's easy work. All of these matchups made. Again, with the Erin Blanchfield situation, though, I want to be clear on this. If Manon Fiorot doesn't have a good win, or doesn't win, then give her the title shot. But this should be used as competition here for these contenders. I think the pressure should be on for Manon Fiorot. And if I was the UFC, I'd be like, hey, put on a good performance. We'll give you a title shot. But if you don't, who knows? Put that pressure on Manon Fiorot so that we actually have some hype for a contender. Because I feel like Blanchfield just lost a bit of hype. I know she beat Tyler Santos. It's a great win. But she lost that hype of the domination that she was showing against Molly McCann, against Jessica Andrade. I'd like to see her fight Barbara in the meantime and get another dominant win so the hype is restored. And she's only going to get better in the meantime as well. There's no need to rush. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.